Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a beautiful, wonderful weekend of football. Welcome to Grassroot Chats, Play to the Whistle. If you like what you hear, what you see, please subscribe, follow us on YouTube, hit that follow button at Grassroot Chats. And of course, all our content can be found at grassrootchats.com. In the studio with me is, of course, the Wednesday loving, Tottenham loving Mr. Hinder. You have Bournemouth and Leeds fan. Big Dunk. And of course, we have top of the table, Arsenal, Big Steve. The angry one is somewhere licking his wounds, licking his wounds. But today, what we're talking about is we're going through the game. So we're also talking about the transfer window and the money that was spent with these various clubs. And we'll have a look at the entire weekend because it's once again, people, it's been a wonderful weekend. Transfer window, 2.2 billion spent from all the clubs. Who says we're in a recession? But apparently we are. So we are going to start with Man United Arsenal, which was the last game of this weekend's football. Arsenal spending 119 million in the transfer window, bringing in five players. Man United, the second highest spenders, spending 214 million, bringing in six players. Initially, there was a lot of issue that Ten Hag isn't buying enough. We don't know if he's not taking charge, and all that is happening. So, with the money spent, I'll start with Big Steve. Big Steve, 119 million Arsenal spent. Do you think that was money well spent? Are you happy with the squad?
I think it's money well spent. I think there was a couple of positions that they wanted to add to, namely central midfield with Douglas Luiz. I think they identified a gap, especially when they had the injuries to Partey and El Nene. I think they should have identified that gap a bit sooner in the window and tried to get him in anyway. I also think they're lacking on the right midfield to support Saka. So when Saka's not, so Saka can get some rest basically. I would have liked to have seen another striker as well because I think we're a bit light up top.
Well, you say that did Luis buy? That was probably because El Neni's out for some time. Partey, we all know, is top start, even if he's had some good consistent play. So I don't think there was any plan to bring in any midfielder, even if Mr. Hinder has been shouting it. If only these guys listen to us at Grassroot Chat. They shouted it to Arteta, didn't listen. And another striker. Don't you also think who wants to come and be number three behind Jesus and Eddie? Who would
Well
want
then,
to
well
come?
then, well
Prolific
then, don't,
striker.
then don't send Balogun out on loan. You need the third option because if you're gonna play Jesus most of your Premiership games, probably Europa Cup, switching him with Eddie. If we have an injury, what happens? Not unless they have a plan internally to, I don't know, play Martinelli through the middle, but then that hasn't ever been done until when, apart from when he first burst onto the scene. So I still think most striker are light.
Okay, well, that's Big Steve talking about the Arsenal transfers. Big Dunk, did you see that wonderful, wonderful game? Well, to be fair and to be honest, this is one of those situations that the better team actually lost. Watching that game, you could see, as Gary Neville even said, there shouldn't be any confidence lost. The Arsenal fans should be happy. It was just one of them situations that they got caught, and they got caught on three very simple counter-attacking football. How did you see today's display from Arsenal, even if they lost, Big Dunk?
Yeah, they were still dominated possession more than Man U, created some chances, but yeah, the defending for some of those goals was bad. Like that last goal was really schoolboy. How they let them through, even on the second one as well. So there are things they're not going to be happy about. So we're at that stage now. What's my word of the season, JJ?
Momentum, baby.
Momentum. Now, Arsenal won 5 and they've lost 1. What are they going to do next? So this is where we see how they're going to deal with it, because people, was it last week we were talking about the mentality monsters, or that was going around about Arsenal. So that was going around. So now we see what they're made of when they go into the next game or two.
In terms of seeing what they're made of, though, it's usually from history and from last season. With games like this, I don't think there were that many games last season that Arsenal actually played well and lost. But with mentality, as you know, and momentum and things, surely this is just like a dent. The next game is against Everton, against Frank, your very good friend. Do you think that momentum will continue?
Well, that's what it should be. It should be a dent. Like they've had a great start to the season. They're playing well. They won 5 and they lost one game. So it should be a dent. But what's going to happen? Like this is where we see, like we were talking about Arsenal for last season, where towards the end, and they have had like silly losses against inferior teams. So we'd all expect them to beat Everton, but Everton are looking a bit better now. Arsenal have actually been beaten for the first time in the season, so the confidence is going to be down a bit, and they're going to expect to beat Everton. But what's going to happen if they go a goal behind? What's going to happen if they don't win that game? Like even a draw, and then we see how it progresses from there.
All right, we shall see that mentality and how it goes. During the week is Europa League, so hopefully that should give them some more confidence. Mr. Hinder, the man that hates Man United the most in this wonderful platform that we have called Grassroot Chats. Well, Duncan says it's him. So 95 million, give Ajax an offer they couldn't refuse. Anthony comes on, starts the game. Ten Hag was, he knows my philosophy. How did you rate his play today? And in terms of the money spent, do you think it was a good window, good money spent for Man United?
So he played well, I think. Came on, he showed he's got a little bit of aggression about him, unlike the Arsenal team. He put in a good shift. I think that's what they were missing. Ten Hag afterwards said that they were missing a right-sided player. Everyone likes to play on the left. So now they've got a player who's left-footed, likes to play on the right. So that's a bit of balance that they didn't have. Obviously, it was an absolute truckload of money. They did need some players who wanted to play, which was the desire was definitely missing last season. And it looks like it was there for today's game, at least, in fits and starts. They don't look as terrible as they did at the beginning of the season. So that's a good thing from United. But dropping Harry Maguire, like I said before, was like a signing for them anyway. And that's just shown across the back that they can actually organise a defence. He
did come on and his first touch got a yellow card. Pretty much almost had a penalty. But yeah, it was a good game for United. So
that was good. They spent 200 million. Now I'm sure Gary Neville still 202 million because the amount of money they got back in, I think it worked out to be. Gary Neville probably still moaned to say there wasn't enough investment in the team. They couldn't put any more investment in. 200 million, regardless of if that's training facilities, club, stadium, or players. It's a hell of a lot of money. It's more money than they get from just standard TV revenue. So obviously they're the monster that they are of a club, and everybody knows about. It means that they can afford to spend this type of cash, and it shows that they want to buy players. They want to compete. They've got an ambition to compete, regardless if they're paying over the odds for any of the players. If they come good, it doesn't matter if he's 50 million or 100 million at the end of the day. Like if they win the league or they get back up there, that's money well spent from a fan's point of view and also from United's point of view, right? If the player's 200 million, but they get somewhere, it's fine. Even if someone else could have got him for 50 million, it's kind of irrelevant, the price. What is important is they actually cement whatever they're currently doing going forward. On today's game, the counter-attacking worked really nicely. They lost the first 2, didn't they? So
was it? Did the counter-attack work really nicely, or was Arsenal's defense really terrible?
I've got some good things from them. So the first game of the season, I've got two thoughts. Right, was the first game of the season? Hey, look, I actually need signings because we're sugar lumps. Right, we're absolutely rubbish. So was that the first game of the season just to come out and say, look how bad we are? I've told you I need X, Y, and Z. You haven't got them for me, but look what I'm trying to play with. Okay, so that's one theory that I've got of why he continued to play Maguire and everything else, because it's like, hey, this is what I've got. Told you I'll try and make it work, but I still need my players in. The other thing that you could look at is they're playing against teams that predominantly sit back as well. Okay, so they don't play on the front foot. So then Man United have to play a different style of football. So Man United have to be on the front foot in those games. And today showed that Man United, obviously we spoke about it before, are very good at counter-attacking. They got some good pace. And the way that they worked today was really good counter-attacking football. So they played against a bang average midfield today.
Bang average?
They played against a bang average midfield. I'm sorry, the Arsenal midfield is bang
do you agree
average.
with that?
I would say the problem with the game today is that Arsenal played a very high line and their goalkeeper didn't push up.
Yeah, but Arsenal always play a high line, don't they?
Yeah, but it was ridiculously high. We never played that high.
You play that high all the time. The problem is Arsenal can't play against
Liverpool high line.
Yeah, but
Liverpool
Arsenal
high line
can't
is the
play against
halfway line.
top teams. Last season they didn't either, and they won't this season either. They choke at the top teams, and that's the problem that Arsenal have.
I don't know if it's a question of choking, but
mate, they were down to the bollocks. They were choking so much. It was literally
playing a high line on the halfway line with Rashford up top and Sancho, and they're going to burn you for pace.
But you were the better team, though.
We were still the better team.
But I disagree. They weren't the better team.
I'm not saying we didn't play well, but those mistakes, playing the line so high, and your pace, you haven't got the pace to come back.
Yeah, but why? I think they did have the pace. The problem is the midfield's so toothless. There's just literally nothing in the center of that park. It's ridiculous. And I've said it from the beginning. They needed new midfielders. They can't wait to the end and then put a £23 million bin in for Douglas Luiz. Like, they should be having players lined up for that position, because it was evident last season, and it hasn't changed. The only thing that you've got is Zinchenko and Jesus, right? They're the big signings that are going to make a difference up front that you didn't have before. Saliba's come back, but the centre of the park is still woefully slim, and we all knew that it was slim. But then he goes and buys all these other players, which are good players, don't get me wrong, but you will not plug the gap.
But if you play such a high line, and if you look at Ramsdale's starting position, compare it to Liverpool. Liverpool play a high line on the halfway line. Yeah, but Liverpool
can play a high line.
Wait. They play a high line, and the keeper, his starting position is outside of the box, 25 yards out.
Hey, I didn't have Ramsdale down as sign of the season last year.
I'm not saying
he's the big difference. He wasn't the difference. That's the problem.
I didn't say he was.
Okay,
so if you make that mistake, you're going to get punished against teams that's got pace.
Why is it? So you're blaming the goalie? Sorry, just a second.
No, I'm not blaming the goalie. I'm blaming the team.
But you just said the goalie was in the wrong position.
He's starting. If you're going to play a high line so high, his starting position has to be 25, 30 yards outside his goal. Yeah, because you're not.
That puts him on the halfway line almost.
You're not pressuring the ball, and if you compare it to someone like Alisson, Ederson, if the team is playing halfway, the goalkeeper is outside his box.
Yeah, but Meslier nearly made it to the halfway line in their match.
I'll tell you this, Dunk, you come in here though. So, I mean, Mr. Hinder has made a very good point in terms of and I agree with him in the sense that because he has been calling it, he said, look, that midfield needs to be touched. I don't agree that the midfield today was bang average, because Odegaard to me was bossing out midfield all day long till he went out. Saabii was a bit, I'm not quite sure what's happening, and then United were happy to play the counter-attack. However, do you agree with Steve saying, because I kind of see why Mr. Hinder is asking Big Steve, are you blaming the goalie? Because the first thing he mentioned was the goalie was off his line, or he wasn't, in a good position. What do you see? I mean, help these two guys here, man. Whose side are you on?
I'd agree with both of them. Like you talk about the midfield, but I think Neil's specifically referring to, like, they got Saabii and Xhaka behind the attacking midfielders.
That midfield has been bossing it throughout, though.
Yeah, the attacking midfielders perform way better, but behind them, in between the defence, is Saabii and Xhaka today. And that's arguably not good enough at this level to compete against teams like Man U. And then the point Steve was making is, like, we can't say it's the goalkeeper's fault. It's a team thing. Like, if the defenders are going to be there, like,
so give the manager
give the memo to Ramsdale that he needs to push up. Like, what Steve is saying is you can't leave that massive gap in between goalie and defence. And on the basis of, like, particularly the last goal they conceded and probably the one before, then he's got a bang on point there. Like, they were playing really high.
So are we blaming the manager?
It's the team, because at the end of the day, if the wait. If what Neil's saying, yes, if you haven't got a midfield with bite that's protecting the ball and can pressure the midfield, if you got people like Fernandes and Eriksen with time on the ball, you cannot play a high line. You have to drop. Because they will pick out passes.
But regardless if they're playing a high line or not, that's like, you've got Xhaka, Saabii, and then you've got Saliba and Ben White. Well, Ben White's got some pace. He caught up on one of them. He was unlucky not to get the ball back in the end, I thought. But that's irrelevant. So, JJ, you already said Odegaard had a good game today, right? They brought him off. No idea why. Like, he was the only one in the midfield that looked like he was doing anything. Then they brought on Smith Rowe. So the subs were poor as well. Actually, they all came on and literally just ruined the game for Arsenal. They didn't know what was going on. They came out with really poor tactics at Old Trafford. Okay, so Arteta, we can say that Arsenal played well, had the most possession, like Man City did against Villa possession-wise, but you see all the highlights of Villa. The problem you've got here is it's a toothless display. There's no point of having a bit more of the ball or having, like, the shots after 70 minutes were atrocious. They were just all taking 30-yard pot shots. Like, do that at 4-0 up, right? Do that when you're absolutely bossing a game. Don't do that when you're still chasing the game. You should still be putting good quality balls in. It was poor from Arteta, who needs to take responsibility of that. The fact that they haven't recruited in the area that is all key, like getting Saliba back, that solved the centre-backs situation, right? And then we know that we've got Gabriel Saliba and Ben White. So you've got 3 good centre-backs in theory there. But then you look at the midfield and go, yeah, Saabii didn't have a good season last season. We've been saying it for ages that Xhaka isn't good enough. El Neni really is only one of Arteta's boys. And then that just leaves Odegaard up top, right? And we're all, yeah, he's a good signing.
I think it's a bit harsh when you say Saabii is not good enough, though. I think, and sorry, not Saabii. I think it's a bit harsh saying Xhaka is not good enough. I think he's clearly shown what
he's steady, but I said it before that they need to improve on what they've got. Okay, so Xhaka is a good starting point and a good squad player, but it's kind of like Liverpool that we said before. Milner's a good player, but you don't have him on with Henderson, right? You need other people with him. Like, Xhaka's fine, but what you need to do is find his replacement, not people that aren't as good as Xhaka. And that's what they continue to do. And that's the problem, because he isn't top 4 quality. He doesn't get in anyone else's team.
Well, yeah, maybe.
He doesn't. Okay. You wouldn't have him, would you? You couldn't imagine, Pep going, you got Xhaka. I'll tell you what, we'll do a swap deal for Jesus.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, though, Mr. Hinder. Xhaka or Fred?
Fred.
Ooh.
Every day of the week, Fred. He gets less red cards. Plus, he's good friends with a lot of Brazilians. So he'd fit really well in either Man United's team or Arsenal's team at the moment. Whereas Xhaka, well, I mean, he threw the shirt on the floor years ago.
All right, okay, we can stay on this midfield situation for a very long time,
but and we will be because they won't replace him. That's the problem.
Pivot moment, Big Steve. Pivot moment. Was that a foul on Eriksen?
It's very, very, very soft.
Oh, come on. Don't get that Arsenal shirt off. You got kneed and bundled over.
Very, very, very soft. But it was a foul.
Okay, so you agree it was a foul? And do you also agree that was a moment that, so if that goal had stood, it would have been a very different game? Or do you think Man United still would have come back to win?
No. If Arsenal did go ahead, I don't think Man United would have come back to win.
Okay, well,
I think Arsenal would have run away with it.
Well, clearly, guys, for those of you that are listening and not watching, I mean, you should have seen the reaction of Mr. Hinder and Dunk. I mean, they're the ones that wear glasses, but if you see them going, so, okay, fine. So that's our pivot moment. Dunk, I'm going to ask you because I know what Mr. Hinder might say. Saka, good one-on-one with Malacia. I think Malacia still ended up winning the battle, but I think Saka had a very good game. Saka scored the equalizer. I think, so looking at the fact that Malacia against Salah, he pretty much had Salah all day long. But with Saka, I think he had to think, he had to adjust his game. We have always talked about Saka's maturity. Should he have scored more though today? Is there more he should have applied to the game in terms of, raising? I think he was probably second best. No. Jesus was the best player. Odegaard, Martinelli, and Saka. Those 4 were really good for Arsenal. But do you think there's certain things he needs to learn to improve his game?
Yeah, he needs to get a bit more streetwise when he's up against a defender that's like working him out and can play him. So again, he needs to get all the tricks in his locker, not skills. I'm talking about tricks, but the vision, the passing, when to go, when to move across, when to pass, when to cross. So yeah, I mean, it was 3-1, and he got a goal. It was a pretty easy goal for him. It was just a deflection, came back, and he was able to put it away. So Neil can still say he's got no end product because all he had to do was side put it in the net. So there you go. Is that what Neil was going to say?
No, Neil was going to say. I mean, even being in a good position is a skill on its own. You need to be able to read the game and get yourself there.
Whoa! Even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
Okay.
Jeez.
I mean, it's true.
These boys, there's no convincing these boys, man. When Neil and Doug, once they have it for you, there's nothing you want to do. Nothing whatsoever. There's no forgiveness.
Listen, Saka had a good half, but his second half was poor. I thought he played very well in the first half against
I thought he was better in the second half. Actually.
But I think was it Malasea or whatever his name? Malasea. Yeah. I thought the second half he was better against Saka. Saka is struggling with crossing, passing, shooting, and I think generally Dunk was right. His decision making. And I think that's his biggest problem is when should he do something? Because there was a part in the game where he was trying to take two players on, like into the box, and there was someone behind him. But then he lost the ball and didn't do what he should have done when he lost that ball. He should be running to get that ball back and get in position, but he didn't. He was letting somebody else do it. And those are the little bits about his game that need improvement, because he could be brilliant. And like Rashford was amazing today. And as much as I was saying how rubbish he was last season, I was hoping he was going to be good this season because we've got the World Cup. And if Rashford continues playing like he did today, then he's back to being a lethal striker, which you wouldn't have thought, bearing in mind his Dele Alli season last season he had. So there's a...
Dele Alli has gone. Leave him alone.
No, that was his season last season. It was a Dele Alli season, right? It was literally a waste of
However, a question for you, though. Since England fans will be very happy that Rashford seems to be getting back to himself, or at least the potential that he showed. But England will not play the way Man United are playing. They will not have Rashford up top pressing. They will probably have him on the left, on the right. And of course, you have loads of players that can play there, even Saka.
And so mate, once Kane's got a heartbeat, he's going to play. Simple. Forget anything else. Doesn't matter if Rashford banks in 30 goals this season. Once Kane's got a heartbeat, he's starting up top for England.
Yeah, simple. I don't think there's a problem with starting Kane up top. I think you still would. We'll get into a whole England debate about having Kane up top, but I think there's space for Rashford either left or right of that situation. And Rashford showing his pace and legs today was really good. And I probably wouldn't want him up top because World Cup football is going to be completely different to that counter-attacking football that Man United can play. But there's no reason why that pace and him finishing that one-on-one was, really good. I think he had 2 shots on target and scored both.
Yep, and the last time he did that was against when he made his
Arsenal on his debut.
6 years ago, right?
Yeah, so...
And 6 years, they still not out of midfield.
Big Steve, it's not all doom and gloom. There are a lot of positives to take out from that game. What is apart from the fact that you need to get to midfielders?
What? Okay, so I know, because you're saying there's a lot of positives to take out from that game. So you go to Old Trafford. It's 1-1 at one point in the game, and you lose 3-1. So you're driving 4 hours back, or say, round it up from Old Trafford to the Emirates, right?
Traffic and stuff.
Yeah, 4 hours back, and
they might fly.
There's positives. I don't see any positive from that game.
Okay, can I ask Big Steve
I'm asking Steve for 3 positives from that game that he can find, because there's 3 for Man United.
Wait, one second. There's always positive for the team that wins.
Yeah, 3 100%. Points.
Yeah, there you go. So, Big Steve, in the words of Gary Neville, there are still some positives. You shouldn't be worried. What are the positives you take from losing to Man United at Old Trafford?
A rubbish Man United at Old Trafford.
That's a rubbish. We played well. We played well in the game. It wasn't a case of we turned up and Man United turned us over. We didn't show anything. We were in the game. A couple of slight things go the other way, and it's a different result. Yeah, so there is some positives.
Like, what? There was none. You were in the game. Of course you were, but it was lost 3-1. I can't see a positive.
We lost 3-1, but at the end of the day,
what are the positives? I'll tell you what, Mr. Hinder. What are the negatives for Man United in that game? Since the positives come to you as clear, what are the negatives for Man United? What should Man United improve based on the winning of that game?
They need to look at their play with the ball against teams that are of a lesser quality. That's one thing that they're going to have to do, because they can't play counter-attacking football against them. That's what they should be taking as a learning from that side of things.
Yeah, but I think that was what happened against Leicester, though.
I think
Man United bust the game.
They need to worry about their temperament. I think there was maybe a little bit in there. I think the ref was quite lenient in that game, apart from the one foul, Steve. But I think there should have been more cards dished out. So I think they got away with that. So I'd be definitely looking at temperament. But it obviously showed a good battling side from that point of view in there. But I think I'd be definitely worried about that. And also Ronaldo, the worry from how does he fit in when he's on the pitch or when he's off the pitch, and what they're really going to do. They need a a plan, if that makes sense. If he's not going to be the main man, where is he going to be? Is he going to be left centre? Is he going to be coming on? Is he happy for that? Have they got a plan for him to come in? So those are the worries, because he obviously has a big impact on the dressing room. So they're the three potential worries for United. But on the whole, like, who cares? 3 points, right?
Man United v Arsenal, always a tasty fixture. Big Dunk, on this topic of Man United Arsenal, I'll ask you this question, and then we can hopefully, if Mr. Hinder and Big Steve let us, move on to other games of the weekend and transfer window. So, Big Dunk, best and worst player for Arsenal. Why? Best and worst player for Man United, and why?
Oh my God! Well, you put me on the spot now. You got
man, you're a brilliant guy. You're a brilliant guy. I like
best and worst. So let's start with Man U then. Let's just give it to Rashford because he got 2 goals. Like Neil said, it's good as an England fan to see him, getting somewhere this season, making a mark on things and getting some goals. So I'll give it to Rashford just purely for the end product. Worst player for Man U? Can I give it to Maguire if he came on? Yeah.
He almost gave away a penalty and he got booked.
When we get onto the Leeds game, we've got our own Maguire at Leeds. We'll talk about him later. And then Arsenal, best player for Arsenal. Yeah, Odegaard was quite impressive. He missed a couple of chances, but he was involved in things, bossing things around, doing the captain's role. Neil, he's a suitable captain. And the worst player for Arsenal. So again, I'll just jointly give that to Saabii and Xhaka for not dictating in the midfield enough and protecting the defence.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure there are loads of things we can talk about. Man United in momentum, 4 wins in 4. And of course, Arsenal just losing 1. Would it be a dent? We shall find out with the fixtures as the weeks go by. Okay, we are now jumping into 2 London derbies. It was Chelsea v West Ham. Chelsea, the highest spenders in the Premier League this window. And of course, Aubameyang is back, people. The man is back. Did his tattoo, went to Spain, chilled for a bit, scored some goals. And now he came back to London, but didn't go to the north side. He's gone to the west side. Is Chelsea a West London club? Yes, they are. And they played West Ham. So I'm going to start straight into the incidents. Big Steve. Bowen on Mendy in that game. A game that was 2-1 at the time. West Ham could have equalized 2-2. This was a weekend of VAR just getting things wrong, in my opinion. However, let's start with that incident. Do you think that was a foul? Is there any perspective that actually makes sense?
No. Wasn't a foul. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Give Mendy a yellow card for feigning injury. But no, seriously, even in real time, it was a goal. When you look it back, why he called it back for it to be VAR checked and then the referee to change his mind doesn't make any sense at all.
Here's a question though. So VAR, if the ref doesn't see something like the incident or in Old Trafford where, okay, you probably didn't see the foul or situations like that, isn't VAR supposed to make a decision and tell the ref, we've made the decision, you got it right, you got it wrong. If the ref gets it wrong, overturn it. Why did they now, in my opinion, why did they cop out and say, oh, could you go check the TV? And,
no. Yeah. If it's a clear and obvious error, VAR are meant to advise the ref that he needs to go and review it. Okay. And then that's why he went to the screen, looked at it, and then he changed his mind.
Yeah, VAR don't make the decision. They just advise a referee to go and look at the screen. I think there was a good point on one of their programs I was watching that like the ref goes and watches it on some piss poor, like I don't even know what it is. It's probably like a 20-inch pissy little screen, like with a cover around to keep the sunlight on. Like, how are they supposed to get a good view?
They showed them different views though.
Well, first of all,
you could have a bloody 60-inch, TV somewhere halfway down the tunnel.
These are 30-gram monitors. These are high calibrated quality monitors. They can see in any light. You can't see that on most TVs. So these are
what size are they?
Way top. I think they're probably way bigger than you think. They're probably a good 43 inches.
It doesn't matter how big it was. He could have been looking in a mobile phone. That wasn't a foul.
I 100% agree. I'm just trying to say, yeah. So they're supposed to look at every goal decision, aren't they? Every goal, just to make sure it was a valid goal. That was one of the issues that they were brought in for. And you're right, the ref's decision is final with regards to, unless it's offside, right? They didn't really get a choice in that matter. But we know all keepers, like they get a little injury and carry on going on about them, don't they? How's your shoulder, Steve?
But just on VAR, there was one in the Leeds game where VAR. We're talking about VAR and its role. There was an incident in the Leeds game where VAR couldn't intervene because the ref didn't blow for a foul, and it was a possible penalty. But they couldn't refer the ref to it because he didn't call any foul.
This is what the issue
blind and was 2 meters away.
This is what the issue I have with the ref blowing his whistle. The ref not blowing his. I don't get it. Anyway, West Ham though, they look good. They are the third highest spenders in the window with 164 million. They got Paquet in. I think.
Did they take any positives home from their 2-1 loss?
No, they took the fact that they were robbed.
Oh, okay.
They should have at least gotten a draw. Yeah. However,
so that's a negative though, even though it was only 2-1. So how do they not get to take positives? But old chump boy over here can take his positives home from Old Trafford. That's a scam. I need a VAR decision.
Yes, you do.
Hold on, they're in the ear. They've asked you to go and look at the monitor for that one.
The small monitor. Okay, so here's the thing though. I'm going to go. Actually, no, I'll go with Mr. Hinder for this. Aubameyang, do you think he can change Chelsea's, tune? Do you think he can make them play better?
100% he'll change it. They will all be pissed off by the end of the season with him. He's late for training. He's got a bad attitude. He will upset that dressing room. But him and Tuchel seem to be good mates, and he knows exactly what he's getting when he signs him. However, the detriment they have to the rest of the boys in that changing room, unless they're all really big egos and they're all on the same page, it's a negative signing. I think Aubameyang had to get out of Barca after his house got robbed and he got his fracture on his jaw, which is horrible. And quite rightly, I'd be looking for a move quite quickly after that as well. So from him, it makes perfect sense. Barca got a transfer fee. Arsenal again left in the doldrums of getting no money from a player who's still wanted by other clubs, right? Good one, Arsenal. But he can do a job there, but it's how long will he do that job? Eddie Bayol was always good at a club for 6 months. So this season, 100% he'll be fine, but it's going to be grinding on the rest of the players around him that are professional and put it in. And I also worry for the young guys at Chelsea, because we've always had a couple come through, but now they're all getting shipped out still, and we're still continuing this buying a 33-year-old striker. They're offering Brozier a 6-year contract. Man, Aubameyang, he's just to him. They're not even giving this guy a chance to start. He was pretty decent for Southampton last season, right? He's big, he's strong, he's got skills, he's got some pace, but they've gone, nah, we'll get this 33-year-old that can't turn up.
He started against West Ham and he looked good. He started with, I think he looked good. But
the thing is, the signing of Aubameyang is the effect it's going to have on, as Neil said, Brozier and Sterling, because I don't know if they signed Sterling and said to him he's playing up top. And if now you're going to put Aubameyang in there and shift him out wide, who knows? I
mean, we have established the fact that Sterling is not the man. He's not going to be the key guy. So I don't particularly think they would have signed him and said,
but they're still playing two up top. That's what they're playing. He's playing a 3-1-4-2 against West Ham. So I assume
sorry, just to correct you, Jada, he didn't start. He came on as a sub because they were really one-dimensional before he came on, and actually made a difference, and they started looking good. He came on in the 60th minute.
So what you boys are saying is, apart from the fact that you clearly think Aubameyang is going to come and buy new Ferraris and probably drive to the north side of London just to wind them up, what you guys are saying is give Brozier a chance. Let him be your top man.
Yeah, but you're offering him a 6-year contract, right? They've just let Hudson-Odoi go out on loan, haven't they? To
Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah, Leverkusen, wasn't it?
Leverkusen.
But why am I just? I'm getting everything wrong.
Getting everything wrong, so we'll just edit everything out for you. If it sounds like me saying Leverkusen over your voice, that's just because the editing was really good.
Fine.
Right?
That is fine.
It makes don't loan them out, because I think it's a disservice to some of these players as well. just let them go and go on somewhere else because they're holding them back.
Yeah, but the deal couldn't be made though. Maybe they didn't want him permanently. Maybe they couldn't afford him.
Who's that?
Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, the frustrating thing about Hudson-Odoi is a couple of seasons ago, I think Bayern Munich came in for him, and they didn't let him go, and they came in for 30 million. They didn't let him go. They gave him a little run in the side for a couple of months, and since then he's been on the bench and wasted the guy's career. They should have just let him go a couple of years ago.
That was my issue.
If they were smart, they'd have let him go and put a nice sell-on clause in there as well.
But he's just going to go on loan, and he doesn't fit in a team because he's playing with basically a 5 at the back, right? 3 centre backs, and then Reece James and Cucurella playing as wing backs. So it's a very negative-looking Chelsea team. Personally, I feel, and that's why you then got Sterling in the middle, who isn't a centre forward, like cutting in as an inside forward, 100%. And I'd have him in my team over a lot of strikers in the Prem, but I wouldn't have him playing with, like I said last week, like the Defoe Crouch situation, and that's what it looks like they've gone with.
Don't worry, we all know what you think about Tuchel, and we know that will not change at all. It's fine.
It's the change of the system though. Like now, all the wingers are out in the cold. So Hudson-Odoi has gone out on loan. He started Sterling and Pulisic like up front. There's like basically 2 false 9s. So the wingers, they are naturally wingers, the people who are playing up front. And in his system, it's not really working because they've got the wing backs bombing up, and he's asking winger players to stay around in the centre and try and create something there where naturally they're going to want to drift out wide.
They're going to want the ball, aren't they?
Let's see. Let's see this though. So Aubameyang is in. Chelsea still got the 3 points, even if the VR kind of messed that up for West Ham. So Big Steve Fofana, he's also coming. So now could we say Tuchel? Yep, Tuchel has gotten his striker. He has gotten the defender he wanted. So now he could say, okay, fine, I've gotten the people I wanted. I can play my system. So no more excuses for Tuchel. Big Steve.
Well, if you go by last season, he said that last season as well. He got in Lukaku for 100 million, and he said this is the missing piece, and he had a.
You're never gonna let that go, are you?
Because it's what he said.
He's just bought a whingier Lukaku, though, hasn't he?
It's what he said.
A whingier Lukaku.
So he spent 100 million, and he made the statement that was the missing piece, and then look what happened to their season. So, do I have faith in the players that they've got in are the missing pieces? Not 100% sure, because Chelsea were like chasing the players that other clubs seem to be going for. They didn't seem to have their own plan.
The phrase you're looking for, Neil, is he bought a Walmart Lukaku.
Or a Wish one, right?
So even Fofana, yeah, he's a good player, but they paid a lot of money for him. It was a lot.
They let a £97 million player go for like $5 million on loan, and then paid $10 million for Aubameyang that went free a couple of months before.
That is some good business. Well, on that,
I wonder if they share agents.
You never know. West Ham they started the season well, got a win, got a draw against Tottenham, a game that they should have won, and now being robbed by VR. Is it 1 step forward, 10 steps backwards? Can they take any positives, knowing that they were robbed?
No, they lost and they were robbed. Like, you can't take any positives from losing and being robbed. But the positive generally in the season, like West Ham are going to be fine. Like they're down there somewhere now, and they're being really unlucky. But they've finished, I can't remember the exact positions, like 6th or 7th, like 2 seasons running now. They've been there or thereabouts at the top, and they've strengthened. So they're not going to have any problems over the course of a season. They just seem to be getting like a heavy dose of bad luck right at the start of the season.
Well, let's hope it all measures out.
I need to ask a question, because the phrase has been used twice. So if anyone else is listening to phrases, they're going to be fine. So how is Arsenal season going to be fine and West Ham season are going to be fine? Is that like 6 or 7 in the league, or just above 17th?
Well, I'm the host. I have no opinion. So Doc, Steve, feel free to answer that.
So West Ham, I see them finishing in the top 7. Even though today's result against Man United, I still think Arsenal will still finish. Well, I said they would in the top 4.
So going to be fine is top 7
for West Ham.
Yeah, and Arsenal.
Top 4.
Top 4 is going to be fine. That's what we're thinking.
Yeah,
so when says they're going to be fine, Arsenal top 4. Are we happy with that, right?
That's an improvement from 5th.
Going to be fine, right?
That's an improvement.
Okay, that's cool.
Well,
I just wondered, because when the Spurs is going to be fine, and they talk about Bournemouth, that means they're surviving, right?
Yes.
Or Leeds going to be fine.
That tells you it's all relative to the club, Neil. It's not like
that'll be fine. I'm just finding out, right?
Okay, Tottenham v Fulham. Tottenham, of course, spending 153 million doing their deals early. Fulham spending just 55 million. However, that was a good game of football. Harry Kane seems to not want to stop scoring. He is starting the season firing, and of course, that's good for England fans. As Big Steve said, if he has a heartbeat, he's going to start. Mitrovic again on the scoreline, looking good. Almost got an equalizer. But Richarlison starts, big dunk. And that was a good formation, having Richarlison, Son, and Kane. It looked like it was all attacking. Is this, obviously, he's going to, tweak and change depending on who he's playing. But do you see that becoming like a Mane, Salah, and Firmino thing like it used to be back in the day?
No, so I said particularly, and I think we all said, like, you don't buy Richarlison for 60 million and have him sat on the bench. Like, he's going to be used this season. And hey ho, the very next game after we said that, he was used. So yeah, he started and he had a really good game. He was like creating things, having chances, bit of flair in there, here and there. So I was quite impressed with Richarlison in that game. So yeah, he's going to. We all said it. He's going to do. Conte's going to do what he needs to do with those front four in specific games. Harry Kane might get injured at some point, or because like we said, he's unlikely to drop Kane, but he's going to switch and change it around with the other players. And Son is scoring no goals because I've got him in my fantasy football league team, and I'm leaving him there until he bloody well does.
I mean, he was unlucky. He hit the bar. It was a good game for Tottenham. It was end to end. Decided to drop back a bit when Fulham got the equalizer, looking good. Now, the transfer window never ceases to amaze us. I'm sure when you guys thought you'll never see him again. Big Steve, Willian, back for Fulham. Please explain to me or explain to anybody that needs to listen. Is this a goodbye? Will it work out? Will it work out?
Will it work out for who? Just to go back on your previous point, Kulusevski will start before Richarlison in Tottenham's important games because he gives a better balance.
Okay.
And anyway, so go back to your point. Will it work out? It only works out for Willian. He's going to get paid.
Well, you don't think he can give assists, goals that will keep Fulham in the league, top half finish?
No, he can, but I hope that Marco Silva uses him sparingly. Do not put a dependency on him because Fulham play some good football before he come. They've got some very good players and they don't need to rely on him. Yes, have him around the club.
If they don't need to rely on him, he's going to use him sparingly. Why buy him then?
Because you can get experience from him.
So and that means he's going to add some positives.
There's some younger players he could bring on. But if you look at what happened with him at Arsenal, where he should have been used sparingly and helped to bring on younger players off the pitch more than putting in poor performances on the pitch and cutting and not taking the place of someone who could have had a chance, you don't want to use him like that. You have to use him very sparingly. He's old and he has to make him prove himself.
Do you agree, Mr. Hinder? Do you agree?
I mean, I disagree with pretty much everything you just said. Every single thing. It just sounds like a bitter old man upset that it didn't work out for Arsenal with Willian. At the time, they didn't have anyone to come in. Like, if there was better players, they could have played, but just didn't have it. Like when David Luiz was playing week in and week out, it'd be a 10-1. Exactly, right?
You spent 70 million on Pepe.
That's how rubbish Pepe was and is and gone.
No, but Willian was putting in poor performance after poor performance. Yeah. He should have been benched.
Xhaka still is. He's still playing.
I know, and he should be benched.
Ramsey still is. Ramsdale, still putting in poor performances and still playing. Like, his decision making is atrocious at the moment, but he's still in the team. You're not calling for him not to play. What about he almost cost you again today? Made a fantastic save afterwards, but his decision making is atrocious for a goalkeeper whose decision making is ultimate in the game.
I have said that.
But Willian,
so what do you think about
Willian? Let me get it. Willian, I was just correcting the Arsenal thing. It didn't. okay, he was in a very poor Arsenal team before. He's now in a team that has less expectations and less weight to carry. So he came on, I believe, and didn't play that bad. And I think his experience in and around the Premier League is invaluable to a team like Fulham. I don't know what his personality is like off the pitch, and I don't know how well you know him, and there wasn't a documentary at the time, but I'm assuming that he's probably quite a nice guy to have around, and he must get on with people, which is why he's always in the club. So I think it's a 1-year deal. He is aging. He's only 30. He's still 3 years younger than Ronaldo, I believe. And there's no reason why he can't come on and do a part. He's not been brought in to be playing every game from looking at the Fulham team and the way that Silva's set up. And Silva's actually, out of the clubs that have got promoted, he seems to be very clued up on how he wants his team to play. They play quite attractive football, but they're also very tenacious and very much in the games, right? They're not getting thumped week in and week out. And we did worry how they were going to be buying players and how they were going to perform this season compared to the other 2 ones go up. And probably Fulham, for me at the moment, seem the most comfortable to stay in the Prem. They don't seem like they're out of their depth. They were unlucky against Spurs, but Spurs, like I've said before, aren't playing well, but they're getting the wins. And Son had a goal disallowed. He didn't just hit the post, he had a goal disallowed as well.
No, that was Richarlison.
It was Richarlison early on. I thought Son had one as well, or was his the post?
Nah, it was Richarlison. Well, that is 2-1 to me against Mr. Hinder. 2-1.
It was a good game, though.
It was.
Kulusevski isn't going to get picked over Richarlison. And also, Kane came off as well. Did you see Kane was the first sub off?
Big Steve?
I think Conte's first three, his forward three is
the Arsenal fan.
Son, Kane, and Kulusevski, because Kulusevski comes in on his left and he gives him a lot.
Or Perisic. Doesn't Perisic have a shout?
Yeah, Perisic.
He's playing fullback. But going back to your point when you talk about Fulham, what did you say different to what I said?
A lot.
When I said using
all I heard was lemons and bitterness coming out of your mouth of how poor he was.
No. When I said using sparingly...
No, I said he hasn't been brought in to be playing as a first teamer every week, I assume.
That's what using sparingly.
No, using sparingly is like bringing him on every night. I think he's he might be fit enough to play 9 minutes. I don't know. He's been in Brazil, so I have no idea of how well he is trained and been from that point of view. But I think he's got a little bit of a point to prove as well, because the Arsenal thing didn't work out quite as well as he wants. He's gone to Fulham. Again, expectations aren't quite so high there. And the team, I dare say, probably better than what he was playing with before in the Prem. So I think that's probably a blessing for him. He's got better quality players with him.
Well,
so do you think he comes in and replaces what they got?
No, he's an addition. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's an addition to that squad. He can play left all right if he wants.
Once again, these boys can go back forward. But don't settle this, please. Just settle this, please.
I think they're saying the same thing.
That's what I say.
Just on a slightly different point, though, the cynic in me, Willian was at Corinthians, where by all accounts he was playing awful, and then he had to have his contract cancelled because of death threats. And then, like, the next day, he's training with Fulham. Like, that's the cynic in me says, "Hang on a minute, there, sunshine." And I would just put him and Aubameyang in the same box and say those are 2 players that have taken a lot of money from the Premier League. And I don't want to see either of them do well, considering the circumstances. They both left it, particularly Aubameyang.
He trained for a couple of weeks for fun, didn't he?
I've got no skin in this game. They're both ex-Arsenal players. Steve could say, like, as a neutral, Aubameyang got kicked out of the Premier League by Arsenal for being like late to training sessions and a crappy attitude. And then, like we said, Barcelona got a fee for him, and now he's back saying, "Oh, I've got the point to prove." Bugger off! I hope he flops at Chelsea.
Well, Aubameyang, if you're listening, man, you need to prove at least Dunk wrong, man. Get 20 goals.
But he's in Dunk's dream team because he's guaranteed a game.
The moment Dunk has been waiting for, the man has a lot of things to say.
Leeds.
Which game is it? No,
Leeds.
45 million versus 100 million. Brentford has spent 45 million in the transfer window. Leeds has spent 100 million. And it was a good game. We expected goals, but Ivan Toney was the difference, scoring a hat-trick. Now, Dunk.
I'm confused. You said this is the moment that Dunk's been waiting for. I'm sure this wasn't the moment he's been waiting for.
No, this is the moment he's waiting for.
I'm sat here in the ball match. It's the moment I've been waiting for. Let's go. Come on.
Let's go. Brentford Leeds. I bet you were not expecting 5-2.
I bet no one was expecting 5-2, JJ. So, yeah, overall, like that's a bad scoreline. Obviously, you conceding way too many goals. And like I said, Leeds have got their own Harry Maguire in the form of Diego Llorente, who's just, by all accounts, having shockers. He was the one that stepped over the ball for the Everton goal last weekend. And he was, oh my God, the last goal, he was trying to do a drag back or something and lost possession. One of the other ones where Meslier had to like shoot off his line and cover, he was like going in when Koch was already like there to take the ball. And I don't know if you put him up. He's just an absolute freaking comedy show disaster.
I mean,
at the minute.
Can you say that sentence again, just for those that weren't listening? Because all I heard was when Koch was going in for the ball. That was literally all I heard from that.
Oh, I know what you heard, Neil.
Who was he going in on?
So 5-2 is an awful scoreline. So there was some defensive calamities going on. But it just shows at the minute we're too fragile on the road. Like we've lost away to Brentford and we've lost away to Brighton. So any misfortune or poor performances this season have been away from home. But yeah, Ivan Toney was that free kick, man. So fair enough, he gets the penalty. Now, the first time I saw that incident, I said that looks like a penalty, and people were debating it. Like I've got no real problem with that being a penalty. So he stuck that away, but that free kick was absolutely sublime, like right in the top corner. No one's doing anything about that. And obviously the third goal was from a defensive mix-up. So, defensive problems and problems away from home. I've got a positive for you, Neil. I've got a positive. We lost 5-2, and I've got a positive. Sinistera is class.
Like yes. He's looking really good. It's looking like...
Sorry, is this one of the villains from a Marvel movie? Sinistero.
You wouldn't know, Neil. You're not a football fan. You don't watch matches like Brentford Leeds.
It's a good match.
So Sinistero gets another goal. He scored 3 now, and he is looking class.
Can we talk about Bamford's clearance as well?
We can.
What happened? I think Bamford knows.
What did I saw? I saw a comment. What was the exact comment about our best defensive work in that game? Was Bamford's clearance for Brentford?
Tony was.
I think
amazing.
He was confused. Before we talk about Tony and how amazing he was, Mr. Hinder, I'm going to ask Big Steve. We always give props to Mr. Porter, how he's doing well for Brighton. Brentford came into the league last season. They did really well. Eriksen, when they changed stuff, Eriksen has left. People were wondering, how would they manage without him? Yes, I know he's only 6 games in, but surely we need to give the Brentford managers some props. They're playing really well. They seem very confident. And of course, Leeds have the thing of making sure that if you beat them, you have to outwork them. But Brentford looked like it was just class against, boys. What do you think?
Can I'll just throw a quick comment in? Brentford have got like the same problem as Leeds. They've slapped Man U and Leeds at home, which is 6 points, but they've only got 8. So they're hot at home and poor away, a bit like Leeds.
The thing with Brentford, what I like is that they've come up playing a certain way and they've maintained they play to their strengths. They're not trying to, we're in the Premiership, trying to do something different, which they don't have the skill set for. They've got a certain set of players. They play to their strengths, and it should hold them in good stead.
Ivan Toney, Mr. Hinder, do you see him? Is there a possibility that he can play for the top clubs? Do you think it's a striker that can go out there and improve other squads other than Brentford?
8th in the league at the moment. That's not bad for a top club. I think he could fit in with the perceived top 4, if that makes sense. He doesn't say Haaland's place for sure, but the way he played in that game, maintaining that level of performance, not necessarily scoring 3 goals in a game, because that's going to be hard to do, but that level of performance, that composure, that quality that he showed that was head and shoulders above anybody else on the pitch for that particular game, then yeah, if he continues that, and that isn't me saying he has to score goals every week or assists, but that level of quality has got to be there with regardless of what he does in a particular game. He's the third highest England scoring forward or player, for 2021, 2022. So he is getting the goals, and if he continues that way, should be no doubt that he gets to go to the World Cup. Whether he plays or starts is another story, but he's a good curveball to throw in as well, because there's not going to be many other countries that are going to be prepared for Tony. So great performance by them. It's never nice to see Leeds beat 5-2. Jesse Marsh given them marching orders, which was funny as well because I don't even know what game it was. I thought he was playing NFL, but he was sent off to the sidelines, wasn't he? Which
that was the incident I was talking about. So I don't know if you guys saw it. So it was Somerville when he came on. Now the ref was literally 5-10 yards at most behind the play. The Brentford player pulled his shirt just outside the box and then shoved him over, and he went over in the box. So that's where Jesse Marsch got sent off, because I'd probably be pretty pissed off if Brentford had that penalty, which I said like I didn't have too many problems with being given, but it was like analysed 15 times.
It was a shocking decision that even a free kick wasn't given for that. But isn't, and I agree, but I still think that the manager shouldn't be sent off at that particular point. He has got to hold his composure and hold it together. So that showed maybe a lack of experience from him.
He was being spanked already. The guy was already frustrated.
But how does that help? Doesn't help the team next week, does it? So he's not going to be there. So that's the problem that they've now got. So getting beat 5-2, you can draw the line under the sand, right? It's not going to happen very often that Brentford beat anyone 5-2, but it's not going to be often that Leeds will get spanked 5-2 in the league from that. But now not having him is detrimental to the team. So I think he showed a lack of leadership skills, composure at that particular point, which was a bit of a shame because they've got to put their socks up and get on with it for next week, and he's not going to be there for that. And he, like Duncan said, he's done so well when he came in, and the attitude and everything else. This little blip, it could go both ways. It could be detrimental to the team, or they'd be like, you know what, he's got as much fire and passion as we have. So it's a 50-50. But Leeds were poor. Like there's no skirting around it. I think that they're still lacking. Like Duncan said, they've got Harry Maguire at the back. The keeper's very inexperienced from the point of view of that, and he could do with a really good centre back in front of him to help him and give him a little bit of that. And I wouldn't get rid of the keeper, 100%. I'd keep with him, but he does need that quality, that next quality level of centre back to help him organise that defence in such a better way in order to take them further. Go on, Don.
So I'll just say, like we only have one left back at the club. That's you can talk about Arsenal problems needing better CDMs. We have one left back at the club, and he's
Bamford?
injured.
Oh,
Firpo. No, Bamford's a sweeper. So that's Firpo, who I wasn't impressed with last season. So we've got Strauch, who's a centre back, playing out a left back. So what all Leeds fans are hoping for is for Firpo, who's not a great left back, but that he comes back and then Strauch can go in the middle and Llorente can sit on the bench for a little bit.
So the last
think about his behaviour.
The last point on that game, though, Big Steve, I'll ask you. Duncan's mentioned the fact that Brentford and Leeds have the same issue. Away from home, something seems to go wrong. For some reason, they can't have that coordination or play as good as they play at home. What can solve that, in the sense that how do you go on? Is it a mentality thing, or do you just a case of I don't know, they don't travel well? How can they transition that to getting more points away from home?
Part of it will be a mentality thing, and not being able to raise your performance away from your fans, because the fans give them the extra support, G them up and stuff. So that's why they can get the results at home. But traveling on the road, you're in someone else's backyard, you have to be more mentally strong, you have to be more organised and stuff like that. You can't make silly mistakes.
So what, they lose their heads before they play away? What's the issue?
It's not necessarily lose their heads, but their mentality is slightly different. They haven't got the backing of their fans. You play football and you've gone away, and automatically it happens to some players.
I was never affected mentally. Come on, man, you know this, Big Steve.
JJ loves playing away.
You're still affected to this day, JJ. Come on.
No, Big Steve, say something. Say something. Okay. Well, we go now. Since we're in the dunk hour, big dunk, and this is actually the moment that you've been waiting for, right? The moment
Wait. Before we go on. Ivan Toney, apart from Liverpool, Man City and Tottenham, I don't know why any of the other clubs didn't go in for him. Considering that a lot of them need this strikers.
Because you've got Nketiah.
Exactly.
I think the asking price would have been astronomical, because Brentford would realise that he is key to them staying in the Premier League. So I don't know if anyone did inquire, but like I've seen comments like that, and you've got to say, like, if Brentford have him and they know he's key, like that price is going to be 60, 80 million, like considering what the other transfers were going.
I have a very good friend that before, he's an Arsenal supporter, and every time Man United play Arsenal, we always spend like a few minutes on the phone insulting each other. He did mention that he would like Ivan Toney at Arsenal. So the question I asked him was, do you think Ivan Toney will go to Arsenal and be ready to be behind Eddie Nketiah? Or is it automatic that he goes there and he turns to being... Or do you think he will leave Brentford to be number 2 to Jesus?
It depends on the player, innit? How he sees it. If he thinks... I don't think... if he's looking at himself as, oh, I'm going to go to the bigger club and be the number 1, that's kind of like not realistic. He would have to go there and prove himself. So when he gets the opportunities at Arsenal, then he can make a case for it. Would he be before Nketiah? In my view, yes, because he's got a better record, play in the games and scoring. So to me, he would go to Arsenal as a number 2.
Okay, well, that's a story for another day. Sorry, Dunk, before Big Steve interrupted. Once again, we're going back to the Dunk Hour. However, man, Dunk, I'm not. I know you're happy that Bournemouth won 3-2 away from home against Nottingham Forest. But looking at the spending of Bournemouth, you've only spent 24 million this transfer window. And you lost to the so-called big teams in the Premier League. Now that you played Nottingham Forest, you won. I think the sacking of Scott Parker was a bit harsh. What do you think, Dunk? Before we actually go into the game, what do you think?
So it was more than results, though. It was an issue between him and the board, and him calling them out and complaining about not having money to spend. He did it at the start of the season, and he came out and said it pretty strongly after the Liverpool game. So it wasn't purely on results. Like I said, there was an issue there brewing away. And basically what the chairman said was, we've got a way at Bournemouth that worked for us the last time we got promoted, and we don't just go out spending 100 million. Because again, like, well,
do you agree with that? Do you agree with that statement? Are they right?
I do, because you can't just... every club can't come into the Premier League and just drop 100 million in one transfer window. That's like madness. That's not a sustainable way of running the business. So what the chairman said is, like, we have a way of doing things here, and Scott Parker's like demanding signings on money. Now, fair enough, they didn't make a lot of signings, so he could have had some of a point, but he went a bit hard in on it after the Liverpool game, and the chairman was just like, Get out, son! I pay your wages. I'm not taking any more of your crap.
You see that, Big Steve, a fan backing his board. See that? That?
Well, I saw like loads of comments. People going, "Oh, everyone's going to want Bournemouth to get relegated now." Like, I'm not sure about that. And it was like a manager versus board, and I think Scott Parker had a slight overreaction because of the fixtures they'd had. So they obviously had those 3 really hard games where they got no goals and got absolutely smacked. So, you know, emotions were probably running a bit high. I don't know if he'd regret saying things these days. But looking at where we are now, like I said, like, I wanted to judge Bournemouth on how they looked against other clubs, but I said they had like no fight against the top clubs, and other clubs have played them, and they have had. Villa just got a 1-1 draw at Man City. You know, where are Villa going to be at the end of the season? Well, I don't think they're going to be like, I would say like 8 to 10 before the season started. Now you see how poorly they've started. You'd say like mid-table would be optimistic for them, but they've gone and got a 1-1 draw, which is a really good result. Fulham got a 2-2 draw at Liverpool. They had fight. Like, Bournemouth had nothing against the 3 top teams, and we'll probably... I'll lead into the result, JJ. So the 3-2 at Forest, like, you would have got absolutely astronomical odds, even from me, at half time, than being 2-0 down away from home against Forest, who have spent 100 and whatever million in this transfer window. So for them to come back in and turn that around to 3-2 is like a ridiculously good result. And it mirrors a game at the end of last season. Bournemouth were in the automatic spots and they were kind of losing form a bit, and Forest were on a massive charge, and they played each other. at the Vitality Stadium, and everyone was like, "Oh, Bournemouth are losing that. Forest are going to win and overtake them." So, like, parallel here, this game, Forest are going to win that. They've spent 100 million. Bournemouth have spent nothing. And
146 million. Nottingham Forest has spent.
And Bournemouth laid the smackdown on them. So, so I think like that is a phenomenal result considering 9-0 to Liverpool like just over a week ago, and sacking the manager. Like, that is a big result. And you look at the table now, and they're just sitting nicely in mid-table, even though they've been absolutely hammered by Liverpool and the big teams. And
it's
like,
amazing how things could change.
But that's like a positive for the Premier League. You look at the table here now, like, it's looking competitive all over. And I think we've said in comments before that bad run can happen to anyone at any time. People can slip into it, and it can really affect your mentality and where you are in the league, and put even more pressure on if you're in a pressure situation like relegation or fighting for Europe.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Dunk doing a Neil Hinder, just going on and on and on and on. To tell you the joys wearing his Bournemouth jersey. The man is happy this weekend, even if he wasn't too happy about Leeds. Mr. Hinder, your comment was Bournemouth are going down last episode. Bournemouth still going down?
Yeah. 100% still going down. I mean, there's Notts Forest were fairly a good first half, but second half they were just dog shit. I think it was the most unprofessional second half of any team in the Prem that I had seen since the time that Arsenal got beat by Wigan after being 3-0 up. It was that bad. They were awful. They looked like they were running on treacle. They all looked tired, like they'd given it everything. One thing Duncan didn't mention was Solanke scored. Thought he would have mentioned that. Didn't bother. Like, literally his first goal and only goal of the Prem ever this season. I think that the 9-0 against Liverpool was always going to be the anomaly anyway. But it was a toothless display. But you get to that point where you just give up in a game. 5, 6, 7, 8. No, like it doesn't really make a difference. You then go to the next game. So the next game was always going to be better. To get worse than that would have been astronomical, and they were playing Wolves. So they've played two lesser teams now in that which was always going to happen. So should they have got rid of Scott Parker? You're probably going to say no. The results don't. Obviously, the results have been good, but they weren't bad before. Like, there was that anomaly in there of it, but there was always on the cards that someone's going to get spanked by Liverpool or spanked by City. Like, it happens once a season to one team. Scott Parker was still 100% right. By telling the board they needed to buy players. They bought 2 centre-backs for money. There wasn't enough money spent in there, and it still
Will he be right? Will he be right, though, if they stay up?
Yeah, still 100%. They still need better quality players. You can't just say, "Oh, we stayed up and that was it." It depends what you want to do with a football club, doesn't it? If you're just happy tinkering at the bottom and being any guy, that's fine. Don't bother spending anything. If all your ambitions are just to stay in the Prem and battle for relegation, then so be it. But if you want to be competitive week in and week out, you're going to have to start buying some better quality players in order to add to the squad. That doesn't mean to say you need to go and spend 100 million. And quite right, you don't need to spend 10 players. But buying some additions and buying some extra quality where it's needed is always going to be helpful for even the best of teams. Yeah, you can't sit on your laurels and go, "This is exactly what we've got." So there obviously was something in there between the chairman and Scott Parker. He wasn't happy with he wasn't being backed, and maybe it worked out for both parties as well. I'm not really getting what I want from this. I want to improve and I want the club to go forward. And the rich British Russian guy who's like, "No, we're fine. We're going to keep all our money here," and that's literally it. We're going to milk the club dry over the course of the Premier League season. So depending on what you take, were they good against Notts Forest? They were better than Forest in the second half by a country mile because Forest was so goddamn awful. And I don't think for the life of me anyone thought that Forest would have all gone on holiday in that second half. It literally, like, they were walking. It was. If you haven't seen the game, check out the extended highlights on YouTube. It was absolutely awful, and I can't stress how bad that second half was and how poor they were. Like, even Dean Henderson looked like he'd gone on holiday. It was everybody had gone, and they're not happy with it and not happy with results. So yeah, Bournemouth got the points. Great. Are they still going down? Yeah, they're still going down. It was just Forest were that poor. I don't think it changes my opinion at all. Forest have to improve though. Go on, man.
Just when he's finished there, just to top off the Scott Parker debate, I also think with the chairman, it would have been in the back of his mind that this is a manager that got relegated from the Premier League before, like
similar situation though, not enough funds, weekend team.
Kind of, but like when it comes to like the push and the shove of the decision, I think he's like, there's always been that thing, championship managers that are good at getting promotion, like, and they never, I don't know how many of them have ever translated it to doing well in the Premier League.
But why get him in?
Would be a great example.
But why get him if that's going to be in the back of his mind? Why appoint him?
He got them into the Premier League.
Yeah, but why bother appointing him? Why not get for the man that they really wanted in that first place if he's not going to be good enough for the Prem? If he's not putting the money in for Scott Parker, is he waiting for Roberto Mancini to come in and go, here's some money, go and make us Premier League winners? Like, what's he waiting for?
We've talked about the transfer. Like, I don't agree with that. People going, oh, they're just there for the money, they're not looking to compete. We bought a centre-back from PSV who was in the final of the Europa Conference League for a good price, and we bought Marcus Tavernier from Middlesbrough, who's like an exciting young English player.
He was 10 and the other guy was 13, right?
Yeah. So but they didn't have big price tags, but like we have added to the squad. And I think I've said in previous weeks, the bulk of that squad, and people made the point of it before, like, again, one of the highlight shows I was watching, like most of that squad has Premier League experience. They played in the Premier League before.
And all been relegated.
It's not, but the relegation, Callum Wilson was out for ages, loads of injuries. Like there were circumstances to that, and that goddamn Villa goal that should have been disallowed got us relegated. But anyway, it's Bournemouth didn't have a squad that needed what Nottingham Forest did. So I don't agree with like they're not competing.
Speaking about that, Big Steve, Nottingham Forest, 146 million, and it's not looking the best. Bournemouth 24. Do you think, is this a prime example? First of all, where do you think Nottingham Forest will finish in the Premier League, Big Steve? And this is a prime example that when it comes to spending money, it doesn't look like to give you the best results.
I think Nottingham Forest in the transfer market have been like a kid in a sweet shop and just gone and grabbed everything and anything that they can get hold of, because to buy 20 plus players in a transfer window and bring in to a football club just seems a madness. I know they had a lot of loans before, but it just seems like there's too much change in the club.
Too much change, or the buys haven't clicked.
I just have one point. Sorry, JJ, and I'll let Steve continue. The one thing that really demonstrates what he just said there is they got Renan Lodi, and it was like, oh, Renan Lodi is available. They've already signed 2 left backs. Yeah, that have joined that club, and now Renan Lodi, come on, that's right. They've now got 3 left backs, and you got 2 left backs. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to play?
Has just
I was going to say, it sounds like there's a bitter
Leeds
Leeds fan here. Like, there's no left backs left.
Yeah, so for them to buy, they've just bought so many players. It seems like they don't have a plan or structure of what they wanted to bring in and how they want to play. So unless he gets it sorted very, very quickly, they're going to find themselves in a problem. They have got some Premiership experience in some of the players that they bought, which could get them out of it, but I expect them to be in and around the relegation battle.
Okay, well, we should say it's at least a good day for Dunk. One of his teams made it. He's wearing the Bournemouth jersey. He's happy.
I said on day one that a Leeds win and the Bournemouth win will not happen very often. I was really happy day one. So I'm happy that I get one of them, JJ.
Yes, and we're happy for you for this weekend. I'm happy for you. Well, I'm happy for me, but I'm happy for you too. Happy for you too. So, moving on. Everton v Liverpool, and then we're going to go to Aston Villa, Man City. Everton, Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool, one of the teams that people have said could be Premier League champions. They played Everton, and it was a 0-0 game. Liverpool seemed to be in this start-stop situation. Everton getting the draw. They seem to be draw specialists. So I was listening to Team Sherwood on Supersports, and he made a comment that just cracked me up. And why is Pickford celebrating a save? Why is he celebrating his job? Which I just felt, come on, man. When strikers score, which is their job, they celebrate. But obviously, Big Steve, the points cherished more by Everton based on team size and result. Do you think Lamp is doing a good job so far? Bearing in mind he's playing you next.
The jury's out on Lampard, man. I don't. The way people talk about him, I don't rate him in the same space as a manager.
Well, you and Dunk.
I'm surprised at the opportunities he's been given in management. I think he's been fortunate. He hasn't earned it, in my opinion. At Everton, I think they need a lot of work.
Sorry. How did Arteta get his job at Arsenal? Can you give me his resume of his
by being the assistant manager at a dominating club? That's experience.
Yeah, but he's never managed a team in his life. Could have come in and gone, right, this is ridiculous. Mike Phelan did the same when he left Man United. Was awful. Like, assistants don't necessarily translate well.
What did you do to Mr. Hinder today? Man?
I'm just upset. We're like, he doesn't deserve it. And I'm like, well, at least he's managed before.
No. But even when he got his role at Derby, when he got his role at Chelsea, I'm not saying Arteta.
There's a reason he got the Chelsea gig, right? It's a Chelsea legend. Like, that's the way he got the Chelsea gig, and everyone gives a legend a chance. Look at Ollie; he was there for like 20 years before they realised how crap he was.
Doesn't mean he earned it.
100%. But he earned that. He earned that for the playing he did at Chelsea. It's the same as Arteta.
Ollie earned it from Mould and Cardiff, and those kind of managerial roles.
No, because he was terrible at Cardiff. Let's be honest. Like, you cannot. But it was a bad Cardiff team. All right.
And Mould. He was terrible at Mould.
I've got no idea, man. I've genuinely no idea how well he's done in the Norwegian division with two teams.
Anyway, Big Steve, as you were saying.
Sorry, Everton, Steve. Talk to me through Frank Lampard's fact that he wasn't allowed a job.
So now I just don't think he's. How can I say?
But good results for Everton, though.
It was a very good result for Everton. Very good performance. It was a very, very good 0-0. I think both keepers made some very, very good saves. Pickford made the better ones, some outstanding saves. What Tim Shaw was talking about is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. If a keeper keeps a clean sheet, especially the Premiership level, it should be celebrated because it's bloody hard. You know what I mean? And some of the saves that he pulled off, the Nunes one. No, but some of the saves he pulled off, the Nunes one was fantastic. Tipped onto the bar, so. Yeah, he does about 5 or 6 saves there.
Dunk, what is with the stop-start for Liverpool? Why is it that they can't seem to get into gear and start hitting the form that they had last season? They scored a 98-minute winner against Newcastle, a game that could have ended a draw. Against Everton, people probably thought they would win. What is with the stop-start situation with Liverpool?
You're not going to ask me about Frank Lampard? Yeah, so it's shocking just because of how high they've set their standards over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Like they've set a really high bar for themselves, and we all expect them to continue it. And now they're experiencing a bit of a poor run, which is something they've not really had for like 2 years. They've got a few problems with like injuries in the centre of the park. I heard they couldn't quite get the Xhaka deal over the line on deadline day, but yeah, like we mentioned it before about them having like a poor midfield, like Milner and Henderson. Yeah, they need
injuries though. Unlucky with injuries.
Yeah. Injuries. Just like when Bournemouth went down, Neil. So they're going through a tough spell. Now, to be fair, they're not really losing men. They lost to Man U, but they're still getting the draws. But again, even that by Liverpool's high standards, like we're going, oh my god, they're only drawing, but like they've got injury problems and they are getting some points from these games. It's another one of those like kind of like the West Ham. They've just had a slow start to the season, and you expect them to be there or thereabouts by the end of the season and to pick it up. I think if they go the next couple of weeks and they're still not picking up wins, then you'd start worrying about what the hell's going on at the club. But I think at the minute it's just injuries and a slight dip in form.
On the spending table, I mean, Liverpool is 11th, Everton is 12th. Liverpool have actually spent 81 million in transfer window. Everton has spent 79. Mr. Hinder, seeing as you came out supporting and swinging for good old Frank, do you think so far with the resources he has had, what they have spent, bringing in top striker, your namesake Neil Maupay, do you think he's doing well so far?
Neil Maupay was exactly what I said he would be, and he was that in the Liverpool game as well. He was just everywhere. Like, he isn't going to get you that many goals, but he had his heart on his sleeve. He is digging in. And he played pretty well, to be honest. If you got to think of, I'm not thinking he's bagging in the goals. He's not been signed like an Aubameyang or Ronaldo type striker, but he's been signed to do a job at the top of the park. I think it was a really good point for Everton, and they're shown actually. If you compare last season to where they were this season, they're like hard to beat now. Where last season they could only beat, I think, who did they beat towards the end of the season? Was it Arsenal?
Donk is dying inside.
So they're much harder to beat than they used to be. They did lose you got to think they've lost the best player as well, pretty much, Richarlison. Now they're rebuilding. Pickford was quality. And I'll be the first one to say when he's terrible, but he had a really good game against Liverpool. They nullified Liverpool pretty much for that game, and Liverpool have been a bit slow. Bearing in mind they banged 9 against Bournemouth. They're used to scoring goals this season. So to a 0-0, showing that they were up for it and had some fight. I think Frank Lampard's doing a fantastic job to get them back right into where they need to be and want to be. But that's going to be a process of maybe this season's the rebuild. Next season, you get the additions into that team to bring it around. From where that club was when Rafa left, regardless if they were 17th when he left or 16th when they were the same position, this season they're much harder to beat. They look much better. They're a much better team. And I think that togetherness is definitely there. And I think that's one of the things that he's instilled into Everton and given a bit of pride back to the team. So, yeah, from that point of view, kudos. Last season, they would have got trounced by Liverpool. That game wouldn't have been 0-0, and we would be talking about how bad Liverpool start to the season is, and is Klopp having his 7-year itch and going to have problems and be fighting for mid-table. Will he make it past 7 years this time? Because he doesn't usually do that. There's kind of like kudos to Lampard on that side of things. I think they're going to be fine. This season, Everton, they look like a much better team. They still could do with another top striker, but what team in the Prem couldn't? Go on, Dunk. Get it out.
What?
I don't know.
I was just going to remind JJ, I didn't have tipped them in my bottom 3 to go down. They are harder to beat, but then it's the old scenario of it's easy to get yourself up for a Merseyside derby. In the same way that I said about Man U can get themselves up for playing big teams even when they're losing to the lesser teams. So it was a good performance and a good result. You go back to the Leeds game, they were gifted a goal and they were time wasting from like the 20th minute. People are like hating Pickford at the minute. He needs to sort that shit out. But again, so they are improving in performances and they're picking up points, which is good for them. So now can they get themselves up for games against the lesser teams? Who have they got next? Is it Arsenal next, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, so against the lesser
you're right,
teams.
against the lesser teams.
They can pick themselves up for that one.
Mope's hat trick.
Sorry, Steve, it's just a joke.
So we should see. Going straight to the Villa City. Earlier on this episode, Mr. Hinder mentioned the fact that Man City had dominating, had possession, but Villa had more of the chances. So first of all, Haaland, once again, 10 goals in 6 Premier League games. The man is breaking records.
His
Did you
goal,
see how
right?
long he was in the air for?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Goal?
So my son was watching like the highlights and stuff with me, and he's like, "How high can he jump?" I'm like, as long he can stay in here as long as he needs to score that goal, because he literally just stayed, didn't he? And it hit the side of his foot perfectly. Bearing in mind he jumped after 3 minutes into the game, and it just like hovered there until that went in.
I'm pretty certain he started jumping before De Bruyne even crossed the ball. So he was already jumping. It was
amazing.
Like,
I have no idea what he does with his hair. Maybe it's like a helicopter we can't see, but there's definitely something in that. Like, what a player! Like, quiet, doesn't need to do anything, and then pops out with a goal. Like that's how good he is, though. He doesn't get to sleep. He's like a top goalkeeper playing for a really good club where he doesn't do anything, and then suddenly you're expecting to make a one-on-one save. Like, he is that good, but the other end of the pitch. Now,
I mean, we have said. Go on, Steve.
I think in every game I've seen, or every game he's played this season, there's at least one opportunity where there's a Man City player who could just pass it square to him to finish, and they don't do it.
Don't trust him, man. He's not good enough. He's just
the guy's position.
We'll take him at Wednesday. We'll do City a favour. We'll take him. It's not a problem.
His positional sense is mad.
He is
when it comes to goal scoring. It's crazy.
He's insane.
And
right?
What's fun is that he doesn't have as many touches in a game. So you say with people always like the busy striker that is going there. Like Jesus against Man United was the only thing he deserved the goal today, but he didn't score one. But But then you remember him for his hard work and the application. With Haaland, you just see him. He knows how to be in a good position, pops up, scores a goal. That's
Imagine
simple.
having a striker, right, being remembered for scoring goals rather than hard work.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Like Mopey evidently isn't good enough, but Jesus goes and has a hard-working game. They're like, what a great player. No, Mopey has to score 50 goals a season to be considered a good player. This is the thing with Haaland, right? He's got the status now where he doesn't need to have that many touches, but he doesn't stop moving. Okay, so his movement doesn't stop, and it's kind of underrated. Him taking 7 defenders out and 3 defensive midfielders, which he would do from a game because they'll be that scared that he'll score, literally just opens up the pitch for everyone else. The fact that the Man City players aren't passing to him to finish, that's a lesson that they need to learn very, very quickly with regards to how he should play. And I think Pep's probably going to pull them in because that game, that should have been Villa's, right? Because they were robbed of a goal at the end from a really, really poor bit of
ladies and gentlemen.
Lino. We don't need host, right?
Mr. Hinder gets too excited.
They got absolutely robbed. But the highlights for that game were all Villa. They weren't City at all. City dominated possession, but there's no point of having possession without having any end product, right? There's only so much foreplay you need in a game. You just need that penetration, right? And they didn't have it.
Penetration. Okay. Yeah. Dunk, you have always been the same way Mr. Hinder loves to support Frank Lampard. You have always loved Steven Gerrard. And, coming out from the amount of losses they have had, getting the 1-0 draw and a game that they could have won, the VAR decision, at the time, though, I actually thought he was off because they didn't give it was towards the end of the game. They didn't give it enough time to start going and reviewing. The game just, started again. So, once again, we've talked about the defensive, negativities with City. How big do you think that is a starting point for Villa? Are they going to start pushing forward, playing the champions, looking good? And then with City, once again, they brought Akanji in. Do you think that would be an improvement?
Well, they only conceded 1 goal, so it's improvement on some of their games. Yeah, and also like Villa only narrowly lost to Arsenal as well the other night, 2-1 away. So in their last 2 games, they've narrowly lost to Arsenal, who are top of the table, and they've drawn with Man City, who are second. So like those are some pretty positive results, regardless of whatever happened in the games. Like in terms of, oh my God, like Neil was accusing Gerrard of losing the dressing room. Like, so to go from there and looking at their start and people saying Gerrard's going to get the sack. Those are like fair enough. They didn't get anything out of the Arsenal game, but again, it was a narrow defeat away to them. Like getting a point at Man City there against Man City, that was a good result. And yeah, like the thing that's outraged people about the VAR is that referees have like agreed they would not flag up and blow whistles until the end of the passage of play because they have VAR, and then they go and blow it up straight away and they've made a mistake. That finish from Coutinho, oh my God, it was off the underside of the bar, was it? Like they said, oh, the Man City players stopped playing.
Yeboah-esque.
Yeah, oh yes. No, I was watching the compilation of every Premier League goal of the season since the start of the Premier League. Yeboah had 2 of them. Absolute legend. But yeah, like no one was getting near Coutinho for that shot. No one was going to close him down before he took the shot. So in a way, they have been robbed a bit.
Well,
100% robbed.
It was VAR was a star of the weekend and making a lot of wrong decisions. But if you're looking at the game, so Newcastle drew their game, draw specialists. They almost got a draw against Liverpool. And then, of course, Southampton lost to Wolves. They're another team that likes to be inconsistent, beating Chelsea 2-1, then losing to Wolves. However, we should finish with Brighton v Leicester. And this is because, of course, Leicester is at the bottom of the table. And Brendan Rodgers is not doing a Scott Parker. He's not coming out to blame the board.
Oh, he has. He has
he
blamed the board, but also
like
we've got to balance books basically. But we can't buy players in because I'm not allowed. That's the board telling me.
Yeah, pretty much. But you see, he did it in a very nice way, not as bad as Scott Parker. Well, but that game had a lot of goals. Brighton playing really well. Even had a sweet goal, possibly goal of the season contender disallowed. And Brighton, people thinking losing Bissouma, losing Neil Maupay, they were like, oh, where's this? Where the goal's going to come from? But Trossard and Welbeck, all these guys are looking really good. Potter we always love that guy on Grassroot Chats. How bad is it going to get for Leicester, though, Big Steve? Is this because if they're not going to buy anybody till January, do you think he can, once again, this is a mentality thing, can he actually, make them get back to their best?
Given the experience he has as a manager, he should be able to turn it around. Not to their levels that they had before, but they shouldn't be as bad as what they currently are. Be it he needs to change formation or whatever, but there is something going on behind the scenes. It seems there's too many question marks over a lot of things. People like Kasper Schmeichel leaving didn't seem right. There's been clouds over Tillemans, Maddison, Harvey Barnes all season. You know what I mean? So all transfer window. So something's not right, but he should be able to use what he's got, change the formation if he has to, make them play a different style of football, and they should be doing better than what they're doing now, because at the moment it's pretty poor.
I mean, Dunk has no sympathy for him. Dunk is the same Premier League players he had last season that were doing well. He doesn't see any reason. They've lost Fofana, yes, lost Schmeichel, but Dunk just believes, they should be doing great, Dunk.
Yeah. Let me go after Steve, because I agree with Steve. Agree totally 100% what Steve just said. So they still have a good squad. They're not a squad that should be anywhere near the relegation zone. Last season, again, off the top of my head, where they finished 9th or 10th? They were somewhere in that lower
with
top
loads
half.
Of injuries, yeah.
Yeah, lower top half. Yeah, they had loads of injuries. They've got some of their players back for this season. So they've only lost 2 players. Now, Schmeichel is obviously quite important, and they didn't replace him. Fofana, they got a lot of money for, and they have replaced him. So too early to judge the guy that's come in. But he's got a squad with some quality in there, and he spent money in other transfer windows. That's why they're kind of running scared of FFP at the minute, because they bought a load of players. There's a list of 5 or 6 players who he spent good money on in the last couple of seasons, which is why they can't spend a lot of money now. So I totally agree with Steve. There's something going on at the club. Rodgers is, when he's making these comments, is coming up with some deflection tactics when he's talking to the press, and he damn well should be doing a lot better than where they are. 1 point from their, how many games they've played now? Check the table. Is it 6?
6.
Yeah, 1 point from 6 games is atrocious. There's not many excuses for that. He needs to be performing better. Again, comments, you read comments online, looking at their squad. He was playing, not this game, but the last game, he's playing Ndidi in central defence. He's got 2 international defenders that he's not using, Vestergaard and Soyuncu. So what's going on in the club that he can't use one of his international defenders and has to start playing people out of position? It's strange, bit like Chelsea strange, but this one's got some slightly higher consequences because they're right down the bottom of the table.
Mr. Enda, sometimes you think we're too quick to, once things are not happening on the pitch, or the manager is not being, or seems like the manager is not being back, are we too quick to blame what's happening upstairs? In terms of a decision like playing your centre backs, how is that the board's fault? How is that Brendan just,
he still played Ndidi in centre back the last game as well. So it wasn't just a one-off. I think he just trusts him more. Leicester are a bit of a weird club, I think, and Brendan Rodgers has always been the guy that's almost been there, but never quite got there. Whatever's going on, fans like to know, if that makes sense. But it has to be from the whole of the club, and there needs to be this buy-in with the fans, the board, and the manager. They all have to be on the same page, right? This year we can't buy players. We're going to clear some out. We need to balance the books, right? Nothing's really been said other than we know that Leicester aren't really buying players. They're just selling them and trying to balance. We assume balance the books, but that could be paid for the guys' other businesses. I don't really know what the situation is. They've never really bought massively big. They've paid over the odds for a couple of players, but they're obviously not desperate to sell from the point of view they have to sell. It's more of they can't buy. But for Fofana, they had to get rid of. Why would you not? Do you take the risk and never get that money offered again, and then he becomes rubbish next season? Like you don't take that risk. You take the money now, and then you worry about that afterwards. He's a central defender in the nicest possible way. Just replace him with anyone else that you want and hope for the best. He's not like a striker from that point of view. And this 70 million wasn't, or 80 million. It was ridiculous amounts of money. So you just say yes and move on. The issue they've got is Vardy's not scoring. So
he didn't even start.
He's not scoring. I mean, he hasn't scored this season, has he? So, like, when he doesn't score goals, it's harder for them because they play so much and rely so much on this guy, and they've never managed to get anyone in that's near. And he actually barely scores, and Daka seems to be like a really, really poor signing from the point of view of getting goals. It's 100% on Rodgers, I believe, from the fact of how well they're not doing, and to capitulate like they did is just that's probably the most upsetting thing. Like, they didn't perform well after it was so what happened. It was just kind of like the Notts Forest situation, but not quite as bad because Brighton are a better team. Brighton played really. Let's not take it away from Brighton. Brighton played really, really well. They were in the game from start to finish and looked hungry. Trossard looks quality still. I don't know why he hasn't gone anywhere else. Like the Cucurella would disappear, Basuma, and you're getting all these players going. But like Trossard, even Murphy went. But is Trossard not wanted? Is he not quite the flavour of the
this
week?
Season.
He was so good in that game and was such a handful that I think he scared the Leicester defence. Getting rid of Kasper Schmeichel was an absolute. Whether it was because Kasper Schmeichel wanted to go on and do something different was a fundamental issue, regardless of anything else. It doesn't matter if he's 400 years old, right? He commands the defense and knows exactly what's going on. They're getting Danny Ward, I believe it is, right? I'm not saying he's not a good keeper, but he's not up to Schmeichel's standards. And that's a massive gulf that you've then got rid of, like a central defender. Kasper Schmeichel's gone, and you're hoping that you're going to get the same results or at least something close with what you've got. Keeper that can't make great decisions, hasn't really got the experience that Schmeichel's got, and regardless of his age, you'd be like, look, can we just keep you this season? If you really want to go next season, not a problem. But I don't know what his contract situation was like, and I don't know the money situation. But to not replace him and get somebody in kind of just seems that they hadn't thought through the whole process. I know that we spoke about Notts Forest buying everybody and loaning everybody in, but like when Dean Henderson was up on loan, like why wasn't that like that? Man United have just loaned Dubravka in, right? He's better than Ward. He's not as good as Schmeichel, but he's better than Ward. The experience is there. So for me, it's kind of like they're the making of their own issues. So I think the club needed to come out of some support and say, this is what we're having to do. But on the other side of it, let's see some youngsters come in and get some football, right? And then go, right, you know what we're going to do? We've got no money to spend because we want to balance the books, but let's bed some younger players in. And unlike Leeds with their goalkeeper who's about 12, bed them in and get them some experience. Why it's struggling times, right? Don't wait until it's 4 games before the end of the season and you're expecting your young 17-year-old striker to score. I mean, they let George Hurst go out on loan again. Like, why isn't he getting brought into the first team in order to get some more experience in there when they're not scoring goals? So that to me probably is the biggest irk from it. Of you need to get the fans on board and keeping fans on the board and keep interest. Say, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to bring in some youth just to help out with the squad. And then they go, that's one of our own. And everybody likes to see one of their own or a youth come through. And then you've got that back in. But at the moment, it seems like a really slippery slope of really poor communication and what's now going to look like mismanagement from Rodgers. And ultimately, only one person's going to leave that club. Then it's not going to be the chairman, right? It's going to be Rodgers. And at one point after 6 games, regardless of if they sold everybody in the squad, for Leicester, probably isn't good enough. Then that's the truth of it.
Premier League champions not too long ago, and it's looking like things are going to be a struggle. Let's see if they turn it around with more games to come. This week is all about European football, Champions League and Europa League and Conference League. So we'll see how that affects the teams for next weekend. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going into our fixture league, where we predict some games. We predicted some games for the midweek games, but we didn't predict any for this weekend. But the next set of the Premier League games, we're going to do another prediction, and have all 4 games. There's another London derby, and some nice games to see. Who takes charge in the table for our fixture league. So very simple: 4 games next week: Fulham v Chelsea, Leicester, Aston Villa, Man City, Spurs, and West Ham, Newcastle. So I'm going to start with Neil. Fulham, Chelsea. Everybody knows how Neil's predictions are amazing. Sorry?
Do you want to say that with your mic not muted,
sorry. Mouse was good playing up a bit there. Basically, I've said all my predictions have been right, but I've edited them so I look like I'm incorrect. So if anyone is listening, it doesn't make me look really egotistical and amazing. So I'm going to go with a Fulham win, just because I really want them to. I'm going to go with 2-1.
2-1 to Fulham. Dunk?
I'll go with a cheeky little 2-2 draw there. I think Chelsea got some problems and Fulham have got some good home form.
Big Steve?
Fulham 2-1.
Ooh.
He just doesn't want Aubameyang to get 2.
Willian might score the winning goal. Yeah, let's go. You never know.
That would be really ironic for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, Big Steve. Leicester versus Aston Villa. Can Leicester turn this around? Is playing Aston Villa a good time for them?
Yeah, they can turn it around if Rodgers wants to. It's all down to Brendan Rodgers, to be honest. I think there's enough quality in the squad for them to be getting better results. So I'll go for 1-1.
1-1. Okay, Dunk.
Yeah, I'm going with a 1-1. Like Villa have got some promising performances, but again, Leicester at home, they should be able to hold off Villa for a drop.
Neil?
Leicester are wank. Literally, unless he starts playing some of those youths, and that keeper's suspect, to say the least.
The keeper's a big problem.
Ollie Watkins is just looks like he could find his form that game. Let's go 3-0 Villa.
Wow. Quick question for you: who's my second keeper in my fantasy football team?
Is it Ward?
Yes, it is.
I've got Raya from Brentford.
If people would like to write in with any suggestions of other players they'd like to be absolutely crippled with their performances by being in my team.
Okay. Dunk. Man City v Spurs. 5:30 kickoff next Saturday the 10th.
I'm going to go for a stonking 3-2 to Man City on that one.
Mr. Hinder?
It's got to be Spurs, isn't it? Spurs have got to win that because I've got them down as winning the league. 3. Let's go with 4-2 Spurs.
Wow. Away as well, yeah?
That doesn't matter, does it? I mean, they're only going to have 3% of possession, 4 shots on target.
Big Steve?
3-1 City.
Okay.
It's going to be fiery on that touchline. That's all I know. It's going to get heated and a bit of fun.
Of course. The 2 managers, they just like to shout at each other. West Ham v Newcastle. Mr. Hinder?
Newcastle 2-0.
Of course you say that. And Dunk?
I think you said earlier Newcastle the draw specialist. So West Ham got a bit of form back. Play it safe, 1-1.
And Big Steve?
2-1 West Ham.
I mean, West Ham would have had form back if they weren't robbed, right?
Exactly.
Positives. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have gone through the transfer window. We have looked at the fixtures for this week. It's been an interesting weekend of Premier League football. Only 3 points between first position Arsenal and fifth position Man United. 15 and 12. It's looking very dicey. Arsenal were enjoying top of the table. They could have been 4 points clear, but the counter-attacking football was just too sweet. It's been a dicey weekend of nice results. Leeds getting spanked, Bournemouth coming back to win. Mr. Hinder just happy because he just likes to insult Premier League teams, and Sheffield Wednesday is doing their thing wherever they are. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we are now, thank you very much for listening in. All our content can be found on our website, www.grassrootchats.com. Follow us on social media at Grassroot Chats. Saying goodbye and going into the week of European football and hoping for better results next weekend. It's Goodbye from Miss Big Steve.
Bye-bye. VAR's the winner.
Yes. Having the choice of choosing which team he supports every weekend and which jersey he wears is goodbye from Dunk.
Cheers for watching.
And of course, a man that sees no positives if you lose, no lessons learned, just negatives. Goodbye from Mr. Hinder.
I mean, there's lessons learned, but there's just not a positive lesson. Take it easy.
All right, people. And it's goodbye from me, and we shall be here same time next week. Till then, Martins.